Morning's Bible reading comes from Numbers 12. The chapter is called Sibling Rivalry on this February 25th. Not the Sabbath, but the day after the Sabbath on Sunday. So based on Numbers 12, Moses is, walking through the desert for 40 years, and then he's got his brother and his sister who start questioning Moses. And that's all they did. They just questioned him, and then God gave the sister leprosy. So Miriam gets leprosy. After Miriam gets leprosy, then Moses is like, please, God, can you not, can you take the leprosy away from Miriam? And God's like, okay. I won't get her leprosy because she questioned you, but you must banish her for 7 days. So she's banished for 7 days in the desert. She wanders around. Eventually she comes to her senses and realizes that Moses is absolutely right. Don't question him, even though he doesn't exist. Moses never disagree with the Hillary Democrats on their quest for gun control. I think freedom is supposed to be liberally constructed. There's 12 other issues that are just as important or more pressing than gun control. You've had 40,000 Americans die of the flu. We don't have universal health care. And directly, 100 children have died from the flu. Pneumonia has killed all the rest of them. So 40,000 for the common flu, because we don't have paid sick leave, we don't have universal health care. We also don't have fair elections, so we need paper ballots, instant runoff voting, and public financing of elections. Paid sick leave, we also don't have that. No democracy in the classrooms. There's 500,000 Americans who are homeless, 17 years of war with no end in sight. There's violent crimes such as police brutality, that they get away with it. The judicial branch isn't fair. Palestinian occupation, immigration, child abuse, smashing the mass delusion that's This next passage for this non-Sabbath Sunday, February 25th, 2018, was based on the book of Revelation. That's where we get the term, the whore of Babylon. Jerusalem is the city made by God, but Babylon, remember the Tower of Babel, all those secularists, all those non-religious people. So the whore of Babylon would be the church, the false prophets, generally speaking, or it could just be Babylon, the secular. So anyways, there's 4 horsemen. They're going to come in the end days. One is going to ride a red horse. One's riding a white horse. And they're riding through the sky. There's an earthquake. The sun turns black, which is weird. And then the moon turns red, and the stars in the sky fall to the earth. So this is just bad science. This is bad. The sun just turns black, and there's a star too. And the star, a black hole could fall onto itself, but the star. There's at least 15 other issues that are just as important as gun control or more important in terms of body count. 40,000 Americans have already died in 2018. 40,000 Americans. 40,000, including 100 children. 100 children is more than 17. And yet we have 25% of the kids in Pueblo are in poverty. 50 million Americans are in poverty, which is 14%, and 40 million Americans have no health care. 12% of Americans don't have any health insurance. They're dying of the common flu, H3N2. This is a bigger flu epidemic than the swine flu. And what's weird is it feels like school. The big media, right, the big dictator told y'all what to think, and then y'all repeat it like rabid. And meanwhile, I'm on Facebook and YouTube trying to talk to you all directly. And I can't get anywhere. So there's plenty but Rambo 3 was where John Rambo goes over to Afghanistan to fight with the Mujahideen against the Soviet Union. So how did the Cold War end? Well, John Rambo and the Mujahideen, who, turned into the Taliban and Osama bin Laden, and there's all that blowback. But, we were best friends with the Mujahideen. I'm sure none of the wars that were starting in Africa or the bombings in Syria or the 7 million children or 7 million citizens of Yemen are on the brink of starvation. An entire nation is going to starve to death because of United States imperialism. 7 million is way bigger than 17. So what's going on here then? I look at Hillary's, essentially her platform, and she's not a progressive except for on guns. She was more progressive, more liberal. If this breaks the Republicans' back, all right, fine. But make any sense to me. Hillary Clinton opposed the Glass-Steagall Act, which is for the banks. J.P. Morgan, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley absolutely adored her. She was for the Keystone Pipeline. The Goldwater girl was financed by the big bankers. She was in favor of a border wall on the Mexican border. She wanted to throw Edward Snowden in jail. She passed the Patriot Act. She thought the TPP was the gold standard. She voted for the Iraq War to overthrow Honduras and Libya. Berta Cáceres' blood is on Hillary's hands. For no-fly zone in Syria. She wanted a no-fly zone. She opposed the carbon tax. She loved fracking. She opposed marijuana legalization and decriminalization. She was a homophobic bigot from the time she was born up until 2015, and she's opposed to single-payer health care. Opposed to life. She couldn't even say it. So I'm supposed to die of a simple flu? I don't have health care. So this is bullshit. H3N2 pandemic hits all those who are the nations that have universal health care. It'd be easier to list the nations that don't have universal health care. They all do. Mexico, Canada, Cuba. Just go down the list. France, UK, all the European countries, Bulgaria, Romania, Russia, China. They care about their citizens' lives, their health. Health is life. Health is life. The Black Panthers provided health care. The Black Panthers provided breakfast. You know, Germany got their health care in 1883. Germany has had health care system, health insurance system for the last 150 years. 150 years. And then Nazi Germany, you know, went around invading everybody, Netherlands, Belgium, and France, and they implemented their health insurance there when the Nazis were defeated. Netherlands, Belgium, and France kept their health insurance. They kept the Nazis' health care. Isn't that something? The Nazis even care about the health of their citizens. In terms of health care and the paid sick leave, keeping people at home until they get better and get past this flu pandemic, the body count is higher. More children are dying. American children are dying of this flu, of not having health care, being stuck in poverty, of not having any kind of paid sick leave. So we also don't have fair elections and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm just kind of wondering what is going on here. All right, more people are dying because they have lack of health care, but I don't hear a chorus of people saying we must get health care. We must stop our children from dying. What, you want dead children? Yeah, you do. You're not standing up for universal health care, you Hillary Clinton Democrat. You couldn't even say you're for single payer. Yeah, let's have a big old sellout to the private insurance company. No public option, no single payer, no government insurance. We got to make, we got to buy Aetna. We got to buy Humana. We got to buy private insurance. Private insurance. Yeah, that's wonderful for the middle class. Of course you didn't know about the Nazis having universal health care. You probably don't know the 7th Amendment or the rule of law or the 3 branches of government either. The American public education system isn't teaching anything. They're taught to obey authority and to not give a fuck about their fellow students. Right? Bell curve. Some of them are going to, they're going to fall off anyway. So just give a couple A's out there. We're not taught to get along. There's no solidarity in the classroom. There's no democracy, no compassion for each other, just route obedience. So what's going on here? What's going on here is, I think it's easy to see. Why is the Hillary Clinton Democrats, if she would have pushed UBI, we'd be foaming at the mouth over UBI. But instead, we're talking about guns. Because the Rachel Maddows and the Anderson Coopers, who interned with the CIA, and the Jimmy Kimmels and the Hillarys of the world, the uber wealthy, and the elderly who vote, they already have health care. And they want the kids to be in school and shut their mouths so they're not running around. For the wealthy, white privilege. White privilege is what's going on. For the white middle class, they don't give a shit about the poor kids. They don't care if you don't have health insurance. That is no cause of alarm for them. They don't care if your kids are in poverty. They don't give a flying fuck. They don't care if your kid's going to die of H3N2. They don't care if you have paid sick leave. They don't care if there's fair elections, right? The popular vote didn't go to the president, but who gives a shit, right? Also, there's no we need public financing and paper ballots and instant runoff voting to be fair for independents. But we don't want to be fair. Why? Because the rich middle class, they don't want fair elections, just Republicans and Democrats. Shut the fuck up, American people. You don't get any other choices. Shut the fuck up. The elderly get themselves a nice fat check compliments of the American worker, but only once they turn 67 years old. So the elderly, the wealthy, and the upper white middle class who vote. This is privilege. Middle class, the white middle class, and the wealthy and the elderly, there's lots of things they don't really give a shit about. Democracy in the classrooms, they don't care. Fair elections, they don't care. 500,000 people are homeless. You know, they're homeless. They don't even have a goddamn home. They don't give a fuck. That's oppressing me. They don't have a fucking home. In the goddamn winter, that guy froze to death in Cincinnati. 500,000 Americans, 500,000 Americans sleep in a ditch because we're a bunch of fucking selfish assholes. No, well, not all of us. Some of us care, and I think that's good to care. But 500,000 Americans. 500,000 Americans. Why? Because the rich white middle class they're not going to, pay for your housing? Give a shit about you? They can't do that. They're not standing up and they're not, in unison. This is an injustice they can ignore. Because they got homes. They got houses. Why should they give a shit about you who don't have a house? Fuck you, America. Mainstream media isn't here to inform. They're a business. It's infotainment. So the mainstream media has to be just as entertaining as football or comedy or drama to catch your eyeballs, to make their advertisers happy. They're not giving you all the information that's fit to print. That's why you don't know that 40,000 Americans have died in 2018. The worst flu season than the swine flu pandemic in 2009. But guess what? Middle-class white people, they got health care. They're not going to die of they could, right? I mean, they're letting all these poor kids get it. And then if they send their kids to public schools, hell, they might get coughed on, and then they might bring it into your old houses. You better start giving a damn about other people. You don't think that bullshit is going to come back and bite you? It's called karma. So paid sick leave, democracy in the classrooms, the homeless, the 17 years of war, the police brutality, white middle class, they got lawyers, they got, they're being represented. The police are the mass delusion that is religion. There's an invisible man up in the clouds, and a bunch of women with wings are flying around. You don't see them because we made this shit up. You're deluded. You're insane. And that's a group, that's a social group, and they stick together, and they're like, we're all fucking nuts, and that's, it's sick and disgusting. You believe in shit that's not there. The world doesn't have enough love, and you're giving love to, here's a, spaghetti monster. Give all your love to the goddamn spaghetti monster. So religion needs to be smashed. Child abuse, corporal punishment. I bet all those school shooters were abused as children. Nobody talks about abuse. 80% of Americans are for corporal punishment. That's a violent society. You're saying to all your kids, 80%, that might is right. Violence does solve your problems. Shut the fuck up. You're nobody, and we're allowed to hit you and, punish you. Immigration is an issue. Palestinian occupation, the corrupt judicial branch. Talk about homelessness, right? 500,000 homeless, and that seems to be a conservative figure, to be honest with you. But we spend $700 billion on a military, a standing army that just sits around waiting for, just something to pop off and just to start shooting. So we spend $700 billion. We got, nearly $1 trillion for debt, destruction, war, right? Drones striking all over the place. But white middle-class America, they don't have to worry about the drone strikes. It's not like in 2014 when Israel killed 508 children with America's protection. It's not like the white middle class in America had anything to worry about. It's not like the elderly or the wealthy had anything to worry about. The bankers are fine. In fact, they might have actually made a shit ton of money off of that. So we got, nearly $1 trillion for Scott Tipton votes for $1 trillion worth of war, but Scott Tipton isn't pushing to solve homelessness. You know how much that would cost to fix homelessness in America? Population, 500,000 Americans. We got 320 million Americans. That's less than 1%. Less than 1% of us don't have a home. So housing Americans who don't have houses would cost $5 billion. $5 billion. 500,000 homeless Americans times $10,000 homes equals $5 billion. $5 billions of dollars, I guess. $5 billion is only 0.007 of the $700 billion military budget. It's less than 1%. It's 0.007%. So it's less than 0.5%, less than 25%, less than a tenth of a percent. Less than a tenth of a percent of the military budget would fix the homeless. But let's be honest. The white middle class, the Hillary Clintons of the world, the Anderson Coopers of the world, the wealthy, the bankers, the elderly, they got houses. They don't have to give a shit about you or your kid or your family or whether or not you can live in this country. They don't give a shit. Has had universal health care since 1883 because they actually care about the lives of their people. America's had universal health care never because the American government, and let's just put it on American society, they don't care about the health of the people of America. They don't care about it. 90% have health care, so they're not worried about the 10%, right? They don't care that there's less than a tenth of a percentage that are homeless. We've been at war for 17 goddamn years. 17 long years. No end in sight. Forever war. Forever. $700 billion a year. We got infinite amounts of money when it comes to bombing. And so you want to do gun control, but you're not going to ban the drones. You want to do gun control, but you're not going to ban the tankers and the, my God, how many people are we killing right now in Africa? Do you even know? We got 30 different Vietnams that we're starting, 30 different shadow wars in Africa, 900 military bases, 150 nations that have special ops, and 12 countries we are publicly, officially bombing right now. Lily pads in Niger and Nigeria and Gabon. What's going on in Gabon? It doesn't matter. We're going to spend a shit ton of money to make sure we got a military base out there. I'm sure it's important. I'm sure that empire doesn't help the working masses. But let's just let it go on, right? Military-industrial complex, our government is the military, is the oil company with the military. That's what is going on right now, right? The oil companies get to plunder the entire world. But why don't middle-class white people give a shit? Well, they get cheaper gas, right? They get cheaper gas. They don't really give a shit about the 508 Palestinian kids that were blown up in 2014 because the white middle class, that's not them. The bombs aren't dropping on them. But when they hear about a school shooting, well, that kind of, comes home. It's like, oh, my God, we've been bullying people forever. We don't want the poor people and the homeless people and the people we've been forgetting and the people that we left behind. Oh, my God, they might come back and they might, frag us. This was a big thing with the Black Panthers. They got their people some breakfast and they got some health care. But justice was the big thing. So there's violent crime that happens right now with the boys in blue, the blue ISIS. So blue ISIS goes around, they can murder people, and nobody's going to say a damn thing about it. They can murder people. So we're going to give all of our guns to these people that can murder us. They can kill us and get away with it. And if you don't have a lawyer, you won't get any justice in these court systems. These million-dollar judges, they sit on high. And if you don't have a lawyer, fuck you. And even if you do have a lawyer, the lawyer better be good. The judicial branch is corrupt, does not give a shit about justice. It's an injustice. It's for the wealthy. It's for the middle-class white people. That's why. The police brutality is an oppressing issue for middle-class white people because, you know what? They're just shooting the poors and the browns and the blacks. They're not shooting the middle-class whites. Middle-class whites get protected by the police. Well, that's a little different. Jotted down immigration. It's an issue, right? Immigration, violent crime, not just the police, but all violent crime. These are issues for everybody. But the corrupt judicial branch, the middle class, they get a lawyer, right? So they're like, well, hell, this is on our side. Palestinian occupation, middle class white people don't give a damn. When it comes to child abuse, to be honest, I don't know why you'd want to beat your kids until they, go mentally retarded. So that's what you're doing. You're hurting your own kids. And then you're putting that sick kid out for the rest of the world, and they're injuring all the rest of us. So that's why we need to be our brother's keeper. That's why we need to be a village, right? It takes a village. Because if you fuck up, your kids, then they might be hurting our kids. Stop beating your fucking kids. But might is right. Violence is acceptable for the Christians, right? KKK, Mussolini, Hitler. Christopher Columbus killed 100 million. That's Christianity. That's Christianity, right? KKK going around killing a bunch of black folks, the entire slave trade. Christianity. The genocide of Native Americans. Christianity. Christopher Columbus, big old Christian, right? The Spanish Inquisition. Christianity. Catholicism. Christians. So it's okay to go ahead and hang a bunch of black people. It's okay to kill a bunch of Native Americans. That's good in, Christian. It's okay to beat the living shit out of your kids. That's good in Christian. It's okay to give all your love to shit that ain't even there. That's good in Christian. So those are the 15 issues I think that, that's for white middle class. Well, I guess the Christians didn't hang the whites. They weren't killing the Native Americans. So it's not them. I mean, they're the ones doing it, right? So, of course, white middle class isn't going to do anything. White America, the wealthy, the elderly, the people who vote, the establishment, there's some people are being protected. Others are not. And that's the goddamn shame.